We're recording. Cool. We're recording. Cool. Well, Nikolai, thank you for doing this. Tell people one more time. I know you've been on before. Tell people who you are. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, I'm Nikolai Schirmer. I'm from Norway. I'm a skier, and I make films about my skiing that you can watch on my YouTube channel and in the last Matchstick movie and some other projects. Yeah, I'm 30 years old now, getting old, and I just realized that I was 30 because I had my Achilles tendon torn, which is apparently it's like an old person's thing. It's like
Really?
generally if you're past 30, yeah.
No kidding. Well, happy 30th, I guess. Like that's crazy. Yeah. All right. So you just told me, but we might as well talk about it now because that's like a significant thing, obviously, to start a ski season with a pretty significant injury. But we're looking on the positive side here. But tell people kind of what happened. We'll kind of run through that story.
Yeah, so it was my first day out skiing this year. And we always go to this one zone, which is really cool because it's very accessible. It's basically you boot back 700 meters, like straight up, no approach, and you're up in this zone where there's glaciers and old snow. So even if you just have a little bit of snow, you can still ski some pretty cool terrain up there. And now we had a lot of snow. We had 3 feet, a meter of snow. That had fallen, and I know because I probed the landing on like some more serious terrain that I skied. Like it's some like big cliffs, like 10-meter cliffs, and skied a couloir and did all kinds of fun stuff. And then on the way back, like we're just cruising down this really mellow slope, like just a flat field of powder. My buddy is running in front of me, and he's all good. He says later that he like felt one rock under his board, but like didn't think much of it. But I kind of like. I did one of those turns where you kind of land sideways, have some snow fly in your face. And like as I landed sideways, there was a rock there that caught my ski. So I kind of flipped forward and then started tomahawking first on my face. And so I hit the ground with my head, and like I have 2 big dents in my helmet and my forehead, but I also hit it on the side of my head. So I got 5 stitches like in my ear basically. Because I hit a rock with my head there, and that like broke. So it broke the bone that goes from my ear towards your nose. I don't know what you call that bone in English. Kinnbein in Norwegian. So that broke, and then I kept tomahawking, and I hit the ground with my boot. I cracked my boot or broke my boot and tore my Achilles tendon. And then I kept tomahawking more, and I landed on my hand. That broke in 3 places. And then I stopped. And I was good. And I was like, okay, I'm all right. And I was like, I didn't even feel my Achilles tendon, actually. I realized right away that my hand was broken. And I could like, when I hit my head, I got when you watch a movie and there's like a flashbang that goes off, like a grenade.
Yeah.
And you get like the really loud, like screeching sound. Like I had that like ringing in my ear. But I didn't pass out or anything, so I didn't think I was had a concussion right away, and I felt like pretty good. Like my experience, like after the crash, because it was pretty violent, like while it was going on, because I was like hitting the ground multiple times, just hitting rocks. So I was like, "Whoa, what's going on in this?" I thought this was a powder field, you know. And I stopped, and like my immediate response, like, "Holy shit, I'm okay!" Like that went really well, and I felt my hand was broken. I was like, "Okay, that's not a big deal. I've broken my hand a bunch of times." And but then I tried to walk to like find all the gear that I lost, and I realized I didn't have any power in my right foot. Like nothing happened as I tried to push down on it, and I was thinking like, oh shit, I hope it's not a tendon. I hope I'd broken something in there, because I did feel the rock like hitting the boot, but I didn't like know what had happened, and I honestly like didn't think I could even like tear my Achilles in my boot.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
So, I didn't think that was a thing that happened to people.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because like the thing they give you, like the walker that I'm now in, is kind of like a ski boot. To be honest. It's just like a ski boot.
Right.
And I'm like, I could have just worn my ski boot the whole time. But it was actually the ski boot broke, so the whole thing broke when it hit the rock, and then that's how it happened. And then I got my first experience with a heli, like heli rescue.
That's crazy. And dude, I was scrolling through the pictures a little while ago, and you're fucking smiling. in the photo while all of this has just happened to you. You're in the blanket and you're smiling like this, and I'm just like, how is this dude still like? I would be
Man,
miserable. I'd take a picture. I'd be like, get away from me, like no chance.
no, man, I was happy. I was so happy. I was so like, I felt so lucky that I was
Yeah,
okay, and I was felt so lucky that it was, it was a sunny day. There was no wind. Um, I had like a sort of like a baby shelter, like a wind sack, we call it in
right.
Norwegian. I had my friends had some like rescue like foil blanket things, and we even had some painkillers. Like I got some mild opiates.
That's
Um, so it was like I was just happy I was okay and that I would be able to get out of there uh without any like big issues. Like if it had been a whiteout, like and they wouldn't have been able to fly the heli, then I would have had to, get myself out of there somehow. Or like with the help of
yeah.
my friends, and that would have been a
That's
shit show. Like we
sure.
were like literally on the top of a mountain. Like what is it, like 3,000 feet up? Or like it was yeah, a long way down, and most of it was like through a scree field. Like most of
Yeah.
the snow didn't start till like yeah, less than halfway up. So or more than halfway up. So I was pretty happy with that, and also just like because my buddy he skied a road in front of me, and he was like at the bottom of the run before he realized I wasn't behind him anymore. And when I realized I couldn't walk, like that I was stuck, and then that I would need rescue, I tried to like check my phone, and I didn't have any service,
Hmm.
so I couldn't call for the heli. So I was just kind of so I saw there was like an outcrop, like this like ledge I could kind of or like this other part of the slope where I could crawl out to and maybe get reception. It was pretty far away, and like I'd broken my hand too, so I was like one hand, one foot, and I was like, okay, that's that's like it's gonna be a shit show for me to like try to move anywhere. But then, kind of randomly, our two friends, Ada and Anik, these two girls that were just coming up behind us, like they just followed our skin tracks and just came over the hill behind us. And I was like, "Hey, do you guys have reception over there?" Yeah, yeah. And I was like, "Okay, can you guys call the rescue for me?" And they did. And from there on out, it was just like smooth sailing. Like the heli came within like half an hour,
That's
flew me straight to the hospital, and like the rescue guy too, right? It's super cool. He like comes in like on a line, like on a rope under the heli, and it's like one of the smaller helis that doesn't have like a winch, so it's like a static line under the heli, and he just got like flies in, and he has like an inflatable stretcher. So he like kind of gets off the rope under the heli flies away, he like pumps up this stretcher. I jump in there. The heli comes back, and he like connects to it, and then they have to like pull me out of the slope. Like the heli's just hovering, and he's like doing all these crazy like hand signals, like because it's so loud they can't communicate with the radio. And then because there's no winch on the smaller helicopters, they have to like fly me, like tow me under the heli, like on top of another mountain. So we like fly to another mountain, land there, and then it's beautiful. It's sunset. It's like the Lingen Alps in all their beauty, no wind, and I'm like, this is actually like it's kind of amazing. And then they take me to the hospital, and from there, they greet me with a wheelchair, and they just like wheel me around to all the different like different areas I have to different kind of doctors I have to see, and just take really good care of me. I was like, throughout this whole process, I've been kind of blown away by how nice everyone is and like how willing everyone is to help you. And especially like we're super lucky too in Norway though, because like everything's free too. So it's like
yeah. That's what I was gonna
it's just
ask.
I was like, yeah, I'm like I'm getting my tax money back right now. That's what I was thinking.
That's crazy. God, man, I can't believe it. Yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, like in hindsight, sure, to be positive about the situation and be like, yeah, I'm really lucky is one thing, but I think in the moment to feel lucky is a totally different level of like self-awareness and awareness of your situation, right? Like to be like, because again, like I would just be upset that anything happened probably, and I do not think that I would be in the same mindset that you were, where you're like, this
Yeah,
is cool, like this is amazing, we got lucky, like that's kind of crazy.
yeah. Do you do any mindfulness at all?
Not really. Maybe I should start.
Yeah, it helps. No, but also I think in a way, like I've thought about like a lot of the risk, like because I do expose myself to a lot of risk all the
Right.
time, and like I've had to talk to friends and family about that, and so I have been really conscious about all the risks I am taking, and even just something like this, you know, like skiing is inherently dangerous, especially backcountry skiing. Like,
Right.
you know, shit will happen eventually, and the longer you do it, you know, something will happen. And this, like, it's 10 years since my last big injury, so it's
Mm,
like,
it's a
you
good
know, you're
run.
gonna, yeah, it's a good run. And that was another thought that was in my head, like, immediately, or yeah, like, while I was laying there in the snow waiting for people to help me. It was like, I would be like pretty like dumb or naive to not see this coming, or like to be surprised
Mm,
by this happening, because it's like, it was more like, okay, this is a part of it. Like, this is, you know, this is as much a part of skiing as, you know, that sunny powder day where you're all smiles and laughing. Like, this is
yeah.
also skiing. Like, this is, yeah, you can't really avoid that. So,
Yeah.
and like, that being said, it was very early season. It was October 19th, and there were
Right.
like probably more rocks than there were later in the season. But
Right.
you know, you have what's a Formula One guy, Schumacher, crashing on the side of
Yeah.
the pits.
Yeah.
And like, my friend Jakob Wester, he hit a rock like mid-season in Chamonix, messed up his leg really bad. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it can happen anytime, and I think it's better to, or I don't know, I don't like think that was just my response. Maybe I should have
Yeah.
been more depressed. Who knows?
No, I probably not. No, in no way. I'm actually like in awe kind of that. So that's actually what I want to ask you about is when you talk about mindfulness, what does that mean? What do you do to practice that?
Yeah, so it's basically so I got a lot of it from my friend. He has tinnitus, like that ear condition, or like, I guess it's actually like a mind condition where you get the sound ringing in your ear.
Yeah.
And he had all these techniques to like live with that and accept that. Like, the only treatment for it is basically to just, yeah, like, accept it and keep going. And so they have all these techniques where they essentially, how can I explain it? So it's like, you know how you have thoughts popping up, like, you think, right? You think and you feel, and the normal way of being and the normal way of living, at least for me, was to just, like, I am what I'm thinking and I am what I'm feeling. There's no filter to it. If I feel hungry, I'm like, okay, I am a hungry person right now. But the thing with, or if I'm sad, I am a sad person right now. This is me, I'm sad. But with mindfulness, what you try to do is to just kind of take one step back, and just kind of, instead of identifying with every thought and feeling that comes into your head, you just try to be conscious and just observe all these things that come and go into your heads. Because, like, at least in my experience, I don't choose what I think. Like, right now, there was an apple that popped into my head because, like, I had a little piece of my apple that was stuck in my tooth, and I tasted it. I was like,
Mm,
oh, this apple, and like, I didn't choose that. That just happened, and so
right.
that, like, appears in my consciousness. And then the act of, like, being mindful is just kind of not immediately identifying with that thought or feeling, or act on those, but rather be like, okay, here's a thought, here's a feeling. Is this constructive? Does this take me to where I want to be, where I want to go? Does this help me and those around me? How how should I deal with this thing that's in my head? And if it is constructive, if it is positive, you can, you know, act on it, embrace it, identify with it. If it's not, then there are, like, techniques to kind of let it pass without it, like, taking up more space in your life than you'd like. And that's not easy. Like, I still get
Right.
sad and happy, or like all that stuff, but there's just like this attempt at doing that, at least.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really I imagine that's extremely helpful for situations where you're like where someone gets hurt, right? Or like when you need to make a quick decision, when you need to like be present in something that requires your full attention.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, because it's the same thing too. Like, if you're gonna do a scary line, or
Right.
do something, you know, there's all these emotions that kind of tell you to not do it. And yeah, so it's yeah, no, but it is interesting. And like, I think the problem with that, like, whole school of thought sometimes is that they're like just talking about mindfulness. Like,
Mhm.
whereas, oh, you're depressed, do mindfulness. But it's like, okay, if you're depressed, there's probably other things in your life that are causing that. Like, is there stress at work?
Right.
Is
All
there,
right.
you know, are you out of money? Did you just lose your girlfriend or whatever? Like, those things obviously affect your mental health. But I think it's like one tool among all the other tools that you can utilize to have a better life, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Have they given you a timeline? Like, are you planning on skiing this year? Is that something that's on the horizon? Is this season a wash for you? Like, what's the story there?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I can like go back to the starting point. Like I was on like a film tour this fall, and like I
Okay.
have my own movie that's coming out in December 16th, Wavy,
Right.
which is like a
Yep.
45-minute film that's coming out. And we had like a closing segment of the matchstick film, and I was like, holy shit, like all this stuff is happening, and that's crazy. And I never expected that. And I'm very grateful. I was like, this could very well be the peak of my career. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was like really trying to appreciate that. And then like this happened like right after. I was like, okay, maybe that was the peak of my career. Who knows? And like immediately, like while I was sitting there in the snow, I was like, I really hope this is not my Achilles, because I just know with like the tendon injuries I've had
Right.
before, like ruptures, it's taken forever. But then I got to the hospital, and the doctor, he was like, it's 8 weeks. I was like, what, 8 weeks? That sounds like not a lot of time for a tendon to heal. And then I started Googling and looking back and forth. And I found this. Do you know the Norwegian ski racer Axel Lund Svindal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he tore his Achilles same day as me, October 19th, but 2015, I think. And he
Mhm.
was racing World Cups again, and I think he won February 4th that same winter.
Same season.
So same season. So just
That's
over 3
insane.
months. And so I called his physio up, and he works at like the Olympic Center of blah 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 in Norway. And he said that he just kind of randomly gotten the gig because he was the physio at the Olympic Center for those kind of athletes. And he said he knew another girl who was like the real main lady. And she knew it even better, and she'd like done all the research on Achilles ruptures and like comebacks in Norway, and they just had actually a big study on it, 500 people in a randomized controlled trials to see whether it's better to do surgery or not do surgery. And so
Mm.
they recently figured out actually that it's better to not do surgery. So I haven't done surgery at all. I just let it
No
heal.
kidding.
uh, yeah, and that's weird because it's fully ruptured. There's nothing there, and there was like
Right.
a 2.5 centimeter gap, like from where my tendon was and where it was supposed to be. And that's like, how does that heal? Like, imagine you have like a two and a
Right.
half centimeter gap in your skin. Like, that's not gonna heal. You need to stitch that up. But what they do is they put your foot in like at an angle, like toes pointing downwards, so your heel is pushed up towards your tendon basically.
No
And by
kidding.
doing that, you get 0.7 centimeter, or what is that, 7 millimeters? I'm not too good with this.
Yeah.
Gap. And then it kind of just like, and then there's like all these blood and gore in there apparently from like when it tears, and
Yeah.
then the tendon just kind of sends these little like tentacles down and attaches itself. So within
What?
2 weeks, I had my tendon reattached like all by itself.
And you can see
Uh,
that's crazy.
yeah, like 2 weeks
That's so
later, that's nuts. And then so I was like 2 weeks no walking, and like it was 2 weeks no walking for my tendon, and then I also like didn't have a hand for my fractures. So I was like one foot, one crutch, and then I also couldn't chew because of the fracture on my face.
Oh my
So I
god.
was like eating soup and yogurt, and yeah, like thank God for like my girlfriend and my parents. Like I would have, yeah, I think I even lost some weight to that period. It's hard to get enough nutrition if you like can't eat
Yeah, you're eating
properly.
soup. That's what people do around here to lose weight is they just eat soup and liquid diets all the time and they just like dump a bunch of weight.
Yeah, that was essentially my program. I was so hungry, and I was trying to eat, but like I just like wanted some like texture and like something to chew on. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, that was 2 weeks, and then I was in the like walker brace sort of thing, and then they're still on like a high heel to keep your like your heel in the right position, I guess, for it to heal properly. And now it's 5 weeks in, so I have 3 more weeks in the brace, and then I'm fully on and I'm already like taking my foot out of the brace, doing exercises to rebuild the muscle. Um, and then there's a physical test I need to do. So when I can stand up on my on my toes, but not like ballerina style on my toes, but like on my forefoot, I guess, on my right foot, on my injured foot, then I'm like good to go skiing. And my the physio caught in. She says 50% of the most patients can do that within 3 months. But she told me on Monday that she was probably looking at like a 4 month window for me. So I'm not. I don't know if she's like playing mind games, trying to motivate me, or like what's going on. But I'm
messing with you, dude.
just messing with my head, trying to get me to hit the gym harder. And you know what? It's like I'm not the kind of guy to like hit the gym. Like I don't really. I used to go to the gym a lot in my teens. But the last 10 years, I've just been like rock climbing, riding bikes, surfing, skiing, like not really doing a lot of like exercise, you know,
Yeah.
like traditional workouts. And like I haven't noticed, like I feel like my physique has been that's good, I guess.
You're doing stuff though. You're doing active things that are like strenuous on the body. So
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, yeah, you're working out, and it's I think the best workout for skiing is to go skiing, and the best workout for climbing is to go climbing, etc. So I kind of get the gym. Like now I'm in a city. I'm in Oslo. I'm staying at my girlfriend's place. Because the physio is down here, and it's like all my family is down here. This is the capital of Norway.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that people go to the gym because it's efficient. You know, if you have a regular job and you want to, work out, it's a good way to do it. So now I'm spending more time there, and I'm kind of getting into it. I'm liking the bike more than I thought I would,
It's funny. Skiers, like you see it. I have this image of Tanner Hall ingrained in my head of him just like running through the bike. I don't know if it was when he did his Achilles or his ACL, but like I just have that image of him like going hard on the bike and like posting it every single day of like, I'm on the bike today. I'm on the bike today. I'm on the bike today. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
But that guy is a beast at rehab, so
he's done it a lot.
He's done it a lot. And that was also kind of distressing to me. I saw he just posted he was back on snow 10 months after his Achilles.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, that's like way longer than
he got surgery,
I'm hoping for. I would assume he got surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, most people that I know, especially in the States, like the move is surgery, right? Like and I think you hear people talk about it all the time where like the US, they like to cut you open, like they like to actually do the surgery and do the process. Even if they don't necessarily need to. Like I don't know how true this is, and I'm sure somebody that's a doctor in the US is gonna like call me out on this and be like, you're an idiot, it's not true. But you hear it a lot, right? And you hear about people, and yeah, that's what I've known too. Like I just told you, a buddy of mine has same deal, and it's 8 months, and he's like, I'm hoping for a few more months and I can go snowboarding, right? So it's totally different than 3-4.
Yeah. I did my PCL and MCL and meniscus in Jackson Hole, and I went to the surgeon there, and he was like, "You gotta do surgery. You just come under my knife, boy." And I was like, and I called back home, and both my parents are doctors, so they're like, don't do surgery over there, like come home. And I come home and I talk to the team at the hospital in Norway, and they're like, no, you're like, you don't, like, we have football players at the top, like, main Premier League of Norway without that tendon, like you don't need it, like you're all good, like just don't get the surgery. Because the thing with surgery, it's interesting because it works, but especially at least for the Achilles, like so I read one study, it's a meta-analysis from Harvard where they looked at 15,000 cases, and they saw that so there's a tiny like a few percent more risk of re-rupture with when you didn't get the surgery, like it's called the conservative way of treating it, but the risk of complication with the surgery was higher, so like infection and all that stuff. So like you'd kind of run a higher risk of something going wrong with the surgery than without the surgery. And that was like the numbers as of last year, I guess. But now there's a new study, which is like the golden standard of science, like a randomized controlled trial, where you put a bunch of people that get the surgery, a bunch of people that don't get the surgery randomly, and you look at what happens. And in this new study, there's 500 people, they see that it's just as good to not get the surgery. And actually, my physio too says it's like the issue for me won't be re-rupture. The issue is whether my Achilles grows back too long, so I won't have the same power in my foot. But I don't. It's hard to navigate. Like Tanner Hall, he's the master of rehab, and he's doing 10 months, and I'm like, what's going on? So it's like I've never done this before. So it's I am talking out of my ass here, you know? I have no idea.
Kind of, but you're looking up, and it's also like we mentioned this before. It's like healthcare is totally different where you are versus where we are, right? Like it's looked at totally different. Like here, it's a business. It's like that is part of it. It is a business. I'm sure to some extent it is there too, but you're talking about a totally different motivation for helping people get better. Even when these doctors are taught these things, right? Like this is just it's just a different situation, right? So, I mean, yes and no, right? Like I'm an idiot. I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to like medical stuff, but that is the reality of the situation. So I'm not, and I don't think you're giving anybody advice. You're just saying what you're doing and what you've been told. And that's fine and correct because it's what people that have this knowledge are telling you. So
no, definitely, and I do think you do see that in Norway too. It's a strange structure. Like I don't know how relevant this is for a skiing podcast, but I'll get into it quickly. So sure. Norway is an interesting case because like you guys have a private system with private multiple payer system of insurance, and hospitals are private and everything. So in Norway, it's like single payer, government pays for everything, but the government units of healthcare are set up in like a business model. They're pretending to be businesses because, the 80s happened and Reaganism happened and Thatcher happened. And that all like that wind of the right swept over Norway too. So it's all set up to like pretend to be a business, to like have the incentives to do stuff basically. But they see that like when they turn those incentives, like when they don't have them dialed right, you get like kind of perverse outcomes where my dad is telling these stories from hospitals around Norway where they've like dialed the pricing for things wrong. And they see that if they like up the price of one type of procedure, they just see a bunch of that procedure without like there actually being like the medical need for it. It's just like you have the incentive to do it. So I would assume that's what's happening, like with the doctor I was seeing in the US. Like his incentive is obviously to do the surgery because that's what you get paid to do. If someone comes to me and they ask me, hey, do you want to do? I want to sell stuff in the ski industry. I'm like, sweet, I'll do marketing in a movie because like that's what I do. I do marketing in ski films and on Instagram. That's my solution. So
That's it's definitely an interesting thing. And I think it is relevant. I think it's relevant because so many people go through this, right? Like, especially like ACL surgeries, like that's the most common injury for skiers in the US. Like everybody gets it done. Like if you pick randomly 10 skiers in a room, chances are half of them are getting have had some kind of ACL injury or surgery. And, so it's important to know, like it's something worth talking about. So like people can actually explore their options. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the incentive is definitely money. And I don't even know that it's always because of the drive for money. It's just what they're good at, right? Like it's just what they're good at cutting you open. They're professionals at cutting you open. You want it, like you just said, you want to do what you're good at. Right.
Yeah.
So
for
it may not be the best option, right? Like marketing in a ski movie, and I'm not saying this because I think it is a good, but I'm just drawing an example. May not be the best marketing tactic to sell skis, right? Like it's just the one that you're the best at. So I don't know.
No, but that's exactly it. But what I would do, so as far as I know, like ACLs, surgery is still the best option, but all this info is like readily available out there. Like if you Google, like there's PubMed, there's all these websites where you can find what you're looking for if you have any kind of injury and you're pondering whether to go like surgery, no surgery, what kind of surgery. There's all these meta-analyses where they go, basically it's like a compilation of all the science that's done on a specific topic, and they just tell you what's what, basically what we're observing in the world when we do it. And because I think the interesting part would like take Achilles surgery in Norway. Like up until like 2-3 years ago, they did surgery on everyone, but
Right.
they didn't look like, they didn't check if it actually worked better than not doing surgery. So it's like once they started looking at it, they were like, oh shit, it's actually we don't need to do that, and this works just as good. But I think it also has to do with advances in like physiotherapy. So I think back in I talked to someone who did like, what was it, like 3 months in a cast or something, and then when your foot comes out of that, it's just ruined. It's just gone. Like, it's all the muscle is gone, and it's a shit show to get it back working. And even just me now, like even like 2 weeks in like a proper cast, I lost like a centimeter of muscle around my calf, which is not a ton, but then imagine like 10 weeks like that. So yeah, I think there's like the advances in physiotherapy help a lot too. But no, it's interesting. I've thought a lot too about like motivation, because I mean, some people definitely like stop after big injuries, but to me also it's like it's such a motivation to like have skiing to come back to. Like that's like I go to the gym knowing like, fuck, this is sweet, I'll be able to ski because I do this.
Right. Yeah,
so
having
nice.
that belief has got to be something. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about something other than surgery and injury and this kind of thing. So Wavy's coming out December 16th. Talk to me a little bit about what that project was like. The trailer's amazing. If people haven't seen it, I will share it when this episode comes out on Tuesday. But talk to me a little bit about what the project was like, what the experiences were like, and what the whole premise behind the film is.
Yeah. So Wavy is a film about me and my friends trying to ski this mountain range in like the northernmost part of mainland Norway. And it's a mountain range that I saw like 10 years ago. I was working on a documentary film project in this fjord where there's like all these native tribes of Norway that I was filming that for a completely different project. And even in this was in the summertime. And in the summertime in northern Norway, there's midnight sun. So you have sun coming into these north faces. And even like at midnight in summer, there was like snow coming down this like black vertical rock face that looked like crazy. I was like, I want to ski that. But the only way to get there is to go by sea, unless you want to go for a really, really, really long hike. So I've been thinking about it, like had it in the back of my head for years. But then I've been doing other things, like things that are easy access, and going to the Alps, going to other countries, doing things that are further away from home. But then the pandemic happened. We kind of had to look at options in Norway, and this sprang up. And I also had a friend from high school actually who'd bought a boat with some buddies, an old like expedition boat that had been like freezing into the ice in Greenland and doing all these kinds of things. And he was like, yeah, we should do a project together. So I got on the boat with Krister Kopala. He's a snowboarder. If you watch the YouTube channel, you'll meet him.
Yeah, he rips.
Yeah, he's super, super good. And then there's Merrick Mordahl. She's from Alaska, actually. But she lives in Tromsø, where I'm from. And and then Jonas Matla shot it on film. He's regular filmer I've been working a bunch with. And then there's Captain Crocs, who's like the main character of the film. He runs the boat, and he's fun. You'll get to meet him in the movie. So it's kind of like when I told my friends about the trip after, I told them it's like, you watch Lord of the Rings. It's a good movie. It's an entertaining movie. All these kind of dramatic things happen. There's lots of action, and it's good. You enjoy it, but you don't want to live the experience of Sam and Frodo.
Right.
And that's kind of my takeaway from Wavy too. It was like, we had like the biggest storm of the season, I think, like at sea, and you're on a tiny boat and everything's going back and forth. And I didn't sleep for like a week, going into some of the bigger objectives that I did last season. And also we were dealing with some sketchy avalanche conditions, and just doing some of the scariest riding I've done, like just riding wise, but then you also had the Avi component there, and it's sort of like, it's a story of like pushing, and then nature, finally says stop at some point, and then like, what do you do? And that's that. And then also there was this kind of side track, or like other side of that story, where both me and Krista, we're 30 years old now. We both have gotten girlfriends like fairly recently, within the last 2 years, and we're just find ourselves in this new life situation, right? You have people that care about you and that you care about, and being reckless in the mountain, it's
Mhm.
not as maybe easy as before. Like you have
Yeah.
to, yeah, people are asking questions, and you got to answer them with a straight
Yeah.
face. So that was a big theme too. So it's yeah, it's adventure, it's friendship, and it's skiing really, and snowboarding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like when you have somebody to kind of go back to, you're like, oh, I had Cody Townsend on a few weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about was how he has a child now, and now like how he assesses what he does. And for him, his answer was a little different. It was talking about like, oh, I'm always extremely careful. Like that is the way that I am anyway. I want to come home regardless. Like the child did not change that for me. As much as I love this child, it didn't necessarily change it. I'm always trying to be careful, but I think it's different with a significant other because you now have to deal with their adult human anxieties for the things that you do, right?
Yeah, yeah. And for me, it's always been like, yeah, I'm careful. I don't want to die, but there is obviously a risk of dying. You know, like if you go into
Right.
avalanche terrain, you will never have all the information, and you try to make the best assessments you can, but you can never be sure. Like every year, there's an experienced person who dies in the mountain, because you that's part of the fun, right? You don't know, it's adventure. And that dying is not part of the fun, but like the sense of the sense
You
of
be
the
careful there.
unknown. Like, yeah, you gotta choose your words wisely here. It's on tape. But for me, it's always been like, okay, there's kind of a scale of like risk you're willing to accept, and on like what you can achieve on one side, and then like the risk or the consequences of it going wrong on the other side. And like what's to lose. And I think like when you don't, like when you're single and young, and you just want to do cool stuff in the mountain, there's like a lot less on like the side of the scale that's you know um conservative. But then I think the more babies and family life and just significant others, they kind of, you have more to lose, I think. I
Yeah.
talked to I talked to a climber who's done like a bunch of expeditions in Antarctica and like all these like first ascents, and he's done crazy stuff, and like his brother died in the mountain, and he talks about it like it's not like he doesn't want to climb crazy stuff anymore because he like feels an obligation towards his kids. It was more like he just wants to be with the kid more than he wants the crazy stuff. It's like
Mm,
it's like a joyful thing. Like I want both, but I want this other thing more. And I think to me that's kind of the effect being in a committed relationship has had too. Like the part of my life that is not on the mountain has grown maybe more interesting. If that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Like I have more to come back home to.
Yeah. Like
Um,
there's more, yeah, there's just more value. And it makes sense. It makes total sense. I think that it's actually a very relatable thing to a lot of people because so many people that, especially on a ski podcast, obviously, like people are doing these things. They're chasing things that they want to do, right? And but they also have lives. So they kind of it's a very understandable thing for most people, I would think.
yeah, it is interesting. I was just talking to Evan. I was sitting at the field productions office today. You remember Supervention, those
Yeah, yeah.
films? Yeah, and I was talking to Evan Sigstad. He's the like co-director, but also did a lot of urbans, like
Hmm.
good parts with Tom Wallish and Jesper Kjæder. And he was saying, because he's kind of quit now, like he's quit, he's over it, and we were talking about that, and he was like, okay, there is a good life on the other side too. He was
Yeah.
like, if there you can have a good life without skiing. And to me that's kind of, I get that on like a theoretical level, but I have no way get that, like I can't imagine that, I can't
Yeah.
imagine not
Sure.
having
Yeah,
ski in my
yeah.
life.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I mean you're too young, I think, to actually like think about like what's next. But I mean, has that even been a thought to you? Like what you were going to do after skiing? Like are there things that you value doing, right? I don't know. I've
Yeah,
talked
I
to
mean, I
people about
love
commentary, right?
surfing,
Like,
beer.
no, but I mean like life, like job, like that kind of thing. Do you have any interest in that, or is that like so far down the line that you're like, I don't even want to consider? Because I think you start to see people like Tom Wallish do this thing where they're getting into commentary, right? They're getting into being involved in skiing in an external fashion, right? Like in a way that's slightly more removed from the actual doing of it, right? I mean, he's still doing it and he's still one of the best ever, but it's a different mindset to go into it and be like, oh, let me test out these other things and these other avenues.
Yeah, you're kind of like, I guess you're getting a broader focus in a way. I think,
Yeah.
okay, so my take on it, I have kind of two ways into that question. Like the first one is that like what I'm doing right now, like making a living out of making these films and skiing,
Right.
is not something that I, in a way, like it didn't even exist when I was a kid. Like there wasn't social media, there
Right.
wasn't YouTube, there wasn't like you were either in like a big time ski movie or you weren't anything.
Yeah.
So it's like I couldn't have imagined what I'm doing right now. Like there was no way for me to plan for it, and I just kind of followed, my, I guess my passions and like what I found interesting and put energy into that as I went along, and ended up in a place that I find really nice and pleasant and that I enjoy. So I
Yeah.
kind of have that, like, I think my strategy, if you say, is like life planning, if that's the thing. It's just kind of keep doing that and just keep like putting energy into the projects and things I find fun and interesting, and that also, you're able to make a living from. And then the other side is like I've always had filmmaking. Like my first, like I was doing commercial work for my big sponsors way before they paid me to do any sort of skiing. So like, and I
Right.
was in
Okay.
law school, right? I went to law school for 6 years. So I think I've had so much. I'm for sure like a latecomer to like the whole like pro skiing thing, and
Yeah.
I've never had the experience of like, someone like Jakob, for example, Jakob Wester, who's like grew up as like a teenage prodigy and had skiing be his like one thing. So I think like it's never been that for me either. Like even today,
Yeah.
like I'm still doing so much like producing and directing and editing and all this stuff. So I think yeah, I'm already kind of like broadening my thing. So I don't know, but I think maybe I think I was talking to Hedvig Wessel. She's my
Yeah.
co-skier in that Matchstick segment, and her boyfriend, he's ex-military. He used to go like Afghanistan and all these places, and he'd be like he was talking about his experience of like pulling back from it, because we were talking about when do you know that you're no longer wanting to push it and be at the peak. And he was saying like, cause he'd do this like remote deployments where it'd be out with like one guy and then like a bunch of like Bangladeshis or something that are like someone from like a different unit.
Right.
I think they're working with Bangladeshis, and he said like at one point it felt really good and it was going for it, and then like immediately like he felt it when it wasn't there anymore. And I'm not feeling that yet. I'm still like
Right. You're
I'm
there.
still wanting to push it. Yeah, like
You can see it in
I
your
still want to
face.
ride. Yeah, I want to go. I want to, I want to be out there. And especially, with this injury, I feel like that's
Right.
kind of not reignited, but for sure, like stoked the fire.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for you. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate the time. December 16th, people can watch Wavy. Tell people where they can get it, where they can find you on the internet and the whole deal.
Yeah, thank you. Just one side note, no way
Yeah.
derogatory towards Bangladeshis there. That was just the company he was with, the
No, I know.
boyfriend.
I got
Yeah,
that. I feel like that was
yeah.
clear, but like
I'm
maybe
sorry. I
like
just want to, yeah.
no. It's I totally get it and 100% understood.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think it came across
It-
the way at all.
yeah, this day and age, I don't know. But yeah, Wavy, December 16th on my YouTube channel. If you are in Oslo, we're doing a launch party with Guttestreker art studio. They're making a print. They just finished the artwork today. You can get that online too if you want. So December 16th on my YouTube channel. If you're not in Norway, as I assume you won't be if you're listening to this, Matchstick Production Stomping Grounds already out. Get that on iTunes, and you can follow me on Instagram and on YouTube, and actually on TikTok now too. I just got on TikTok.
Are you TikTok famous yet? It seems like as a skier, it's TikTok famous is a thing. Like there's a lot of guys that I know now that are very TikTok famous, and I'm never expecting it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not TikTok famous for sure. I have like 700 followers. But it's interesting. I feel like the algorithm works better there, at, like spreading this content that people react to. Like
Yeah,
I got like one video with 100,000 views with like 700 followers,
it's
and that's like
crazy. It's yeah,
yeah. So it's gonna be interesting actually, because I don't know if you remember when Instagram came around. Like there were some people kind of like blew up on Instagram, and people weren't like giving like saying they weren't like real pros. But then after a while, you know, people like the brands at least realized that was good marketing too, and it became more
yeah,
legitimate. So it'll be interesting to see that happen on TikTok too.
yeah. It's happening. It's kind of happening slower than I expected it to. Right? Like there are those influencers that are huge on TikTok, but like it hasn't really happened in skiing, with the exception of like I always give Kyle Smain credit because like that dude on TikTok is so famous. It's crazy compared to like what I expected to go and see on there.
Yeah. What's his name? You said
Kyle Smain.
Kyle Smain. Okay, I'll check him out.
He's a like pro for
Yeah.
Fisher. He's a great. I mean, he's a great guy. He's amazing. He's been on the show before too. But like all his videos get a ton of views, and I'm like, oh, he has like 50,000 TikTok followers, and I don't know, like that just
Holy
seems bizarre
shit.
to me
Yeah.
for a skier. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He has like 3 million views on this one video.
That's what I'm
That's
saying. It's
nuts.
crazy.
Yeah. Holy shit. This guy's killing it. Well,
Yeah.
I could get good on you, Kyle. I respect that. You put in the work.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks for doing this on short notice, and see you